I've had several requests for a shop tour, so I've put it off for a bit. I had to do quite a bit of cleaning to get ready here, but here we go. So first, a little background. I used to do woodworking for a living, and I had about a 1,200 square foot shop in Torrance, which isn't too far from here. The working area of the shop was maybe 1,000 square feet because there was an office and a bathroom, but it was plenty of room. Particularly for one person. So at that time, I had a little more equipment. I had a couple other workbenches and things. I had that shop for about 4 years, and eventually got a full-time position teaching woodworking at Cerritos College. I should also point out that, of course, when I moved, I had to downsize a bit. So I probably have, things are a little tighter in here than I would like, but that's just how it worked out when I went from 1,000 square feet to this is, I think, about 600. That part of the shop is more garage type stuff. My wife has a workbench over there, but like I said, I'll show you that in a sec. So starting at the back of the garage, I'm facing an alley behind me here. So we got two doors. My sharpening station is here. My wife's got some stuff over here, so access is a little limited at the moment to my grinding wheel, but I can still access that. I've got my sharpening station set up here, and of course it's nice to have that ready to go. My stones are stored here so that they can dry, and they're sitting in an angle so the dust doesn't collect on them. I've got water in a bucket here, spray bottle, the usual stuff, so I can just come here and sharpen very quickly. My bandsaw is here. This is a 16-inch Laguna Tools. I forget what they call it. I think it was the HD 16 at the time. I think I got it in 1996. It's been a great saw. I found out much later after I bought it that it's made by Meber in Italy, which is a pretty good bandsaw manufacturer. That was just dumb luck on my part. That happens to be who Laguna was buying tools from at the time. But it's been a great saw. It has 12-inch resaw capacity, decent amount of power, and dust collection at the blade and at the bottom, and it's just really worked out really nicely for me. You can see too that I've got dust collection coming to this. So I've got it's an Oneida dust collector. I think it's 3 horsepower, and it does a great job of taking care of the dust in the shop. I've got my joiner planer here. This is another Laguna Tools piece of machinery. It's got a 12-inch capacity, so 12-inch joiner, 12-inch planer. And I bought it at the same time as the bandsaw, and they all had 12-inch capacity, so I thought they went together well. This has been a great machine. I upgraded to a bird helical head, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and that's made it especially nice. So it's been great. I haven't had any complaints about it. It's not quite as nice as some of the, like a hammer or something like that, but it's done a good job for me for, coming up on almost 30 years. So very happy with that. It's got the dust collection hooked up to its same duct as the bandsaw. Over here, I've got most of my hand power tools. And I saw somebody had theirs like this a while ago, and this has just worked out really nice. It's very easy to see what's in here. I can grab each tool very quickly. So I think that's a great way to store stuff. It doesn't keep them quite as clean as if they were in an enclosed space, but how clean do they need to be. Above here, I've got a toolbox and various, little stuff, drill bits, whatever is in there. This storage, of course, is part of another bench. It's got a nice oak top on it. Not that I use the top that much. I've got storage here, various things, a lot of hardware, mishmash of stuff in here. And then further down, I've got a lot of drawers here. There's more hardware, a bunch of screws, various other bits and pieces of stuff, dowels. Here I've got sandpaper. Yeah, pretty much anything I need. Easy to get to. I've got whole sheets here and then quarter sheets here. Various sanding blocks. This is my clamp rack, obviously. And I built this based on a friend of mine who had one that Ian Kirby had come up with the design for. And I like it because I can store a lot of clamps on here. I don't know how many are on here. I don't know, maybe close to 100. And I can access any of the clamps individually. I don't have to remove a clamp to get to another clamp. So that's particularly nice. So I've got some pretty heavy-duty F clamps here. I've got pipe clamps over here. I've got hand screw clamps at the bottom, some more bar clamps over here. And then over here on this side, a lot more F clamps, little smaller ones, and, like they say, you can never have too many clamps. So this has worked out really well for me, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. So great design. I wish I could say I came up with it, but it has the sides are all tilted in. I think maybe 2 degrees or something like that, and that's enough to keep everything in place. It's on wheels, which in this shop here doesn't really make a difference, but when I had my big shop, that was handy once in a while to be able to move this around the shop. I've got my radial arm saw here and chop saw. So these, of course, are on the same table. Yeah, I built this bench system so that all these things were at the same height. And this one is fixed in height. It sits directly on this. The radial arm saw has some adjustment underneath here for this table, so I could fine tune this to get here. And then this fence system, I could fine tune that a little bit by changing the thickness of the spacers underneath here. So this has worked out really well for me. Nice to have this big space. This fence system is a Saw Helper Ultra Fence, which I think it's still made. I'm not sure, but it's been awesome. It actually has, it's a modular system. And I've got 8 feet on this side. I also have stored away another 4 feet on this side. And there are legs that go this, so you could take this to a job site and use it there if needed. Underneath here, I've got storage. So I've got a bunch of sheet goods down here, just small stuff. Waste basket under here, which is nice because I'm always, throwing a little stuff away off the chop saw. Some more small lumber storage here. And of course, I've got most of my lumber stored here. This, when I had my big shop, this was another, I think, 4 feet longer. But this has worked out nicely. This is, I think it's a Canadian system. They've been making it for quite a while, but it's really heavy duty, and I can store quite a bit of lumber up here. You can see dust collection once again. I can shut this one off. This does a great job of collecting the dust from the chops or the radial arm saw. The dust collection for this, not so great. It'd be nice to have a shroud or something back here, but I just have to vacuum it once in a while. Over here, this is my slot mortiser. And you may have seen it in some of the videos that I've made. Great little machine. It's made by Inca. It was originally made to mount on the back side of a table saw. The little Inca table saw, if you're familiar with that. And that was a tilting table saw. So the arbor was fixed. So there was a chuck that you mounted on the back side of the arbor. I have modified that. I used to have that table saw, but I sold it a long time ago. And I've since mounted a router here, which actually works much better than the table saw because it spins the bit way more quickly. So this has been nice, although I haven't used this a ton lately. When I retired, I was gifted a festival domino. And so I've used that mostly since then instead of the slot mortiser. It's sitting on an adjustable height work stand, of which I have two. You may have seen it on the other view from over there. Don't really need two in this small a shop, but once again, that's what I had when I had my big shop. So they're pretty darn nice to have, and it is particularly nice to have two of them because I can adjust them to the same height if needed and have a pretty big work area there. Here I've got my router table. Now this is a pretty big router table. It was kind of based on ones we had at school in terms of the size of the top. And I was teaching a class where everybody made router tables, and the first time I taught it, everybody wanted a table this big. So it's an awesome router table. It has great dust collection and lots of storage. I've got a big drawer here for I've got a bunch of routers in there. I've got some different drawers here for various things, jigs and fixtures. A lot of router bits here, various wrenches, collets and stuff here, and then some more jigs and stuff down below. It's hooked up to its own vacuum over here. So when I turn this on, the vacuum comes on. So that's really convenient. And the fence, I made the fence using some 80/20 material. It turns out there's nobody that makes a fence this long commercially. So when I taught the class, we had to figure all that out, but it's really worked out nice. It's great to have, obviously a big workspace if you have room for it. Later, when I taught this class, we came up with a smaller version of this, and I think it's about a foot smaller. But anyway, this is great tool. I've got my compressor here. Now, I don't know if it showed up. I don't think it did. But I actually have a hose reel that hangs from the ceiling in the middle of the shop, which I, once again, had at my old shop. At my old shop, I had an 80-gallon compressor. So that was great. This reel, I could get the hose pretty much anywhere in the shop. I have yet to hook it up. I needed a place to put it, so it's hanging there. It looks nice, but no air comes out of it. So I've just got a little compressor here. Little pancake compressor works fine. It's most of the time I'm just using it to blow stuff off, or maybe for a nail gun. I don't have any pneumatic tools like disc sanders or anything like that. So works just fine. One thing I should point out, these things tend to walk when you turn them on, and it was always moving places I didn't want to move. So I created just a board for it, a little platform, and it has round feet on it, and so they fit into holes, and then this thing sits up against my router table, and it's kind of indexed in here so that it can't move. And since the compressor wants to move in one direction, it's just always trying to push itself into the stand here in the side of the router table. So since I did that, it hasn't moved a bit. So that's been a great thing. I've got a Festool vacuum over here, and I've got another vacuum, a little Craftsman vacuum that I've had, gosh, since the 80s. A little bit like clamps, you can't have too many vacuums in your shop. So I think that's it for this area. Over here, I've got some more drawers, and mostly what's in here are tools. I've got a bunch of wood planes, chisels, a couple different chisel sets, various other tools, layout tools, things like that. So another area to store small stuff that's out of the way. So we'll move over here next. I should say this is for a project for the house, so that's normally not there. And once again, you can see lumber storage here. Chargers over here for various battery-powered tools. In this corner, I've got my dust collector, and it's plumbed, across the to the opposite corner to the bandsaw. There's a leg that goes over to the table saw, and then of course down here to my chop saw and radial arm saw. It's, like I said, I think it's a 3 horsepower Oneida. I've had it since around 2000. I actually bought it from somebody used. He had bought it and wasn't able to use it, so it was essentially new when I bought it. I think it had been installed briefly. Got most of the ducting with it. Got a great deal on it, so I really lucked out on that. I've got it hooked up to a remote transmitter. This is the PSI Long Ranger, and this thing's worked great. I've never had any issues with it. I usually got it in my back pocket. Kind of noisy, but does the job. Yeah, I'm typically wearing hearing protection if I'm using one of the tools where this is on, so it's been great. This is my sheet goods storage, and another thing that's worked out really nicely, so I can get a substantial amount of material in this. On this side, I can put a full sheet of plywood 4x8, and then I've got 2 smaller spots here. This one is set so it's just over 5 feet, so I can put in Baltic birch in there, typically 5 feet square. If I put in a full sheet, it sticks out a little bit far here, but I typically wouldn't do that. And it's a little tight back here, so the way I've got this mounted is it sits on hinges on the back side, and I can rotate this to get access to the dust collector there. So very efficient use of storage, small footprint, and you can even move it around a little bit. So that's something else that's worked out nicely. Here I've got my workbench. This is a John Nyquist design, kind of traditional European bench. It's up against the wall with a window on it, and so that looks into our backyard. I've got a lot of hand tools hanging on here. I've got a tool tray, which I know some people don't like. It works for me. It's just what I got used to. My bench prior to this was a Tay Frid bench that I built, but it was on the small side, so this got replaced with this one in probably around 2005 or so. Below here, I've got planes that I use most often, a few other doodads, clamps that I use most. It's nice to have clamps near the workbench, so these are just in a 5-gallon bucket. And I think that's about it for here. Nice to have a light on your bench, so that works out nicely. This is my drill press. just a drill press, nothing special. It's a Jet 17-inch, served me well. I bought it probably in the late 90s, about the same time I got the planer and the bandsaw. Put this table on it, which has worked out well. It's got a fence and a replaceable insert here. Other than that, it's a drill press. This is one of my favorite tools in the shop, 20-inch disc sander. There's nothing like being able to take just a teeny bit off the end grain of something, tweak a miter, things like that. And that's difficult to do with other tools, even hand planes, particularly end grain or small pieces, things like that. So this has really been a great tool. As with everything else, it's hooked up to the dust collection and does a great job. Prior to this, I just had a 10-inch disc that I mounted on my table saw, which worked pretty well, but there's nothing like a dedicated disc sander. One other thing I should point out, I've got this nice flammable materials cabinet over here. That is thanks to one of my students a long time ago. And at the college, being a woodworking program, we had students of all ages and backgrounds and you name it. And at the time, there was a large company that was shutting down a plant, and he was in charge of maintenance kind of stuff. And he was trying to find a home for these things. So a bunch of us at school got these nice fireproof cabinets. So I've got, finishing materials, things like that stored in there. This, of course, is my table saw. It's an old Powermatic 66 from the 60s, I think. I bought it maybe mid-90s or so. And you can't beat these old saws. This particular one has cast iron extensions all the way across. And at the time I bought it, I was working out of a relatively small garage. And I wanted the outfeed table because that's what I was used to at school. And I was, doing occasionally cutting up sheets of plywood, things like that. So I've got two extensions for outfeed, and the furthest one out folds down, or it used to fold down. Now I got so much stuff under there, I can't fold it. But there is a leg there that I could fold that down, and that was up against the garage door at that original shop. So that just gave me a little extra room when I had the garage door open. I've got, some storage under here, and this has worked out nicely. I've got several different sleds, various other jigs and fixtures. I've got push sticks and clamps, and this is a tall fence that's on top of this fence. One thing I like about this that I saw somewhere from somebody's shop is, occasionally you want to get your fence off of the saw just so you've got a big working surface. So this, when I'm not using it, has a place to store here. So then I've got a complete surface on top here, and that's nice and safe out of the way. When I made this, I had planned to put a drawer in here, but one of those things I just never got around to, and just slide stuff in there. So I think that's about it. I do want to mention the lighting. So you can see I've got fluorescent lights pretty much throughout here. Now, if you're an electrician, you're probably thinking this is a dangerous setup. I'm supposed to have covers on the bulbs. That just never worked out. And I should also point out, I do have some skylights here. There are three. I think you can see one or two in the image right now. The third one is kind of blocked a little bit by the loft. You may have seen I've got a loft up in that end of the shop. So these two provide some light. I kind of messed up though. I wish when I built the shop, instead of 3 2x2 lights, I wish I would have put 2 2x4 skylights here. That would, for less openings in the roof, I'd actually get more area where I needed the sun. And I put them on the south side of the shop. I'm sorry, I put them on the north side of the shop. That's the south side. And I didn't want sun coming directly into the shop. I get a little more indirect light with having them on the north side. So that's worked out nicely. Like I said, just wish they were a little bit bigger. So I think that's it. You probably can't see it. I do have a dust collector, air filter up here that circulates air and filters. I should point this out. This is super handy to have. We had these at the shop at school, just over all the workbenches and things. So wouldn't hurt to have another one in here, but it's really great to have these hanging from the ceiling. And I think that's it. So any questions, may put them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.